They called him the Shadow of Terra. Thane Blackwood had heard the whispers, seen the fear in their compound eyes when his name echoed through the neon-lit corridors of space stations. To some, he was a ghost story told to frighten young larvae. To others, a vengeful spirit of a dead world. But to those who hired him, he was simply the most effective killer in the known galaxy. The crack-skull mercenary before him now, all writhing tentacles and crystalline armor, was learning the truth firsthand. His plasma blade hummed as it separated the alien's head crest from its shoulders, the smell of burnt chitin filling the air of the abandoned mining facility. "Please," the dying creature gurgled through its respiratory vents, "I have clutch. Mates." Thane's obsidian combat suit, reverse-engineered from a dozen alien technologies, didn't even register on thermal scanners as he knelt beside his prey. "So did I," he whispered. 6 billion of them. The memory of Earth's fall still burned in his mind, as fresh as the day it happened 5 years ago. He'd been on deep space patrol near Neptune when the Vh'kari Dominion's worldbreaker ships emerged from fold space. Their crystalline vessels had looked like abstract art pieces, beautiful and terrible as they systematically dismantled humanity's defenses. He remembered the desperate calls from Earth's orbital platforms, the final transmissions from the lunar colonies, as they were methodically erased from existence. The Vh'kari weapons didn't just destroy. They unmade, reducing matter to its constituent atoms and cascading waves of cerulean energy. His ship, the Teeve Nighthawk, had been too far to help, forced to watch as green fire rained down on his homeworld. The Vh'kari didn't even want Earth's resources. They simply couldn't tolerate another spacefaring race in their galaxy. They'd learned later that humanity wasn't the first species to face extinction at their hands. The Vh'kari saw themselves as gardeners, pruning what they considered weeds from their cosmic garden. The day Earth died, so did Commander Thane Blackwood of the Terran Defense Force. What emerged from the ashes was something else entirely. The aliens thought they'd exterminated humanity. Instead, they'd created their own nightmare. The first year after Earth's fall had been dedicated to survival, learning to navigate a hostile galaxy that celebrated humanity's extinction. He discovered that not all aliens supported the Vh'kari's actions. Some saw them as dangerous zealots who needed to be stopped. These dissidents became his first allies, teaching him their technologies, their ways of war. The Vh'kari, a race of synthetic beings who'd fought their own war of survival against the Vh'kari millennia ago, taught him how to modify his neural implants, pushing human reflexes beyond their natural limits. The shape-shifting Nyxara showed him how to move unseen through the shadows of space stations, their liquid metal technology becoming the basis for his combat suit's adaptive camouflage. But it was the dying words of a Vh'kari commander that first made him suspect there was more to Earth's destruction than simple xenophobia. "You weren't supposed to survive," the alien had gasped as Thane's blade pierced its primary heart. The test was corrupted. A warning chime in his neural interface pulled him back to the present. 3 more biosignatures approaching, their unique energy patterns marking them as Zextal assassins. The insectoid race was known for their speed and precision, and their astronomical fees. Someone really wanted him dead this time. Good. Thane's augmented reflexes kicked in as he rolled behind a fallen support beam, the air where he'd been standing suddenly filled with crystalline shards that would have shredded unprotected flesh. The Zextal moved like liquid shadow, their chitinous forms barely visible even to his enhanced vision. Their species had evolved on a world of perpetual twilight, developing natural chameleonic abilities that made them perfect assassins. Their compound eyes could track movement at speeds that would appear as blur to humans, and their crystalline weapons were grown within their own bodies, making them virtually impossible to disarm. But they weren't the first assassins sent to kill the last human. And like all the others, they'd learned why that was a fatal mistake. His neural interface connected with the facility's damaged systems. In the darkness above, ancient mining drones whirred to life, their cutting lasers painting targeting patterns across the chamber. The Zextal were fast, but even they couldn't dodge automated fire from 12 different angles. The first assassin died before it could even register the threat, its carapace split open by precision laser fire. The second managed to fire off another crystal burst before a drone dropped from above, its industrial saw making short work of the alien's thorax. The sound of chitinous armor being shredded echoed through the chamber, accompanied by the high-pitched death screech that had earned the Zextal their nickname among spacers, the Singing Death. The third proved more interesting. It deployed some kind of phase shift technology, becoming partially incorporeal. Clever. But Thane hadn't survived this long by being predictable. He triggered his suit's gravity manipulators, reverse-engineered from Vh'kari personal shield technology. The chamber's artificial gravity reversed. The phase-shifted assassin, suddenly weightless, lost its anchor point. That moment of disorientation was all Thane needed. His plasma blade carved through the alien semi-corporeal form, the energized edge disrupting its phase field. Both halves of the Zek's hull hit the ceiling with a wet crack. Thane landed gracefully as gravity reasserted itself, his boots magnetizing to the metal floor. That's when he heard it. A slow clap echoing through the chamber. "Magnificent," came a voice like grinding glass. Simply magnificent. A figure emerged from the shadows, its form seeming to blur and shift, as if reality itself couldn't quite decide what it was looking at. This was no ordinary alien. This was something older, something that had been watching from the darkness between stars long before humanity took its first steps into space. The being's presence set off warnings in Thane's neural interface he'd never seen before. His augmented senses, capable of analyzing and categorizing any known species in milliseconds, struggled to process what stood before him. It was as if he was trying to look at something his brain wasn't meant to comprehend. "I know what you are," Thane said, his grip tightening on his weapon. "You're one of the architects." The being's form stabilized slightly, resolving into something vaguely humanoid but wrong in ways that made the mind recoil. "And I know what you are, last son of Terra. So much more than the simple killer these lesser races believe you to be." The architects were supposed to be myths, stories told by drunk spacers about the race that had allegedly built the first hyperspace gates eons ago. Every spacefaring species had their own legends about them. The builders, the first ones, the shapers of worlds. But no one had ever proven their existence. "You've done well, playing your part," the being continued. "But surely you've wondered why you alone survived. Why you were conveniently far from Earth when the Vh'kari attacked. Why you've had such remarkable success adapting alien technology to your needs." A cold feeling settled in Thane's gut. "What are you talking about?" The architect's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "We've been watching humanity for a very long time, waiting to see if you'd prove worthy. The Vh'kari attack was a test. Not for humanity as a whole, but for you specifically. You were chosen, Thane Blackwood. Engineered even before your birth to be something new. The perfect fusion of human determination and alien potential." Memories flashed through Thane's mind. His unnaturally quick adaptation to neural implants during military training, his inexplicable ability to interface with alien technology that should have been incompatible with human biology. Even his survival of the 9th space radiation exposure during the Battle of Ganymede, an accident that should have killed him instantly. You let Earth die? As a test. We let it die so something greater could be born. Look at yourself. A single human striking fear into the hearts of beings that once thought your entire species beneath notice. You're proof that our experiment was successful. An experiment. Thane's voice was deadly quiet. Is that what you call the genocide of an entire species? Your perspective is too limited, the architect said, its form shifting like smoke in a wind he couldn't feel. We've guided the evolution of countless species, shepherded the development of entire civilizations. Sometimes, sacrifices must be made for the greater good of the galaxy. And who decided you had the right to make that choice? To play gods with billions of lives? The being's form pulsed with something that might have been pride. We are the gardeners of evolution, the shapers of cosmic destiny. You're nothing but cowards, Thane interrupted, his voice carrying an edge that made even the ancient being pause. Playing with lives from the shadows, too afraid to face the consequences of your actions directly. Careful human, you are exceptional, but you are still just one being. We created you. We can unmake you just as easily. Rage, hot and familiar, flooded Thane's system. But there was something else now, a clarity he'd never felt before. 5 years of vengeance, of hunting anyone connected to Earth's destruction, and he'd never once questioned how everything had fallen so perfectly into place. The architect spread its arms. You've proven yourself worthy. Join us. Become what you were always meant to be, a bridge between the old universe and the new. Thane looked down at his plasma blade, at the alien tech grafted so seamlessly into his combat suit. All this time he thought he'd been turning his enemies' weapons against them. Instead, he'd been dancing to strings pulled by beings so ancient they viewed the rise and fall of civilizations as mere entertainment. He smiled then, not the cold smile of the Shadow of Terra, but something altogether more dangerous. You know, he said quietly, for being so ancient and powerful, you made one very human mistake. The architect's form flickered with what might have been curiosity. "Oh? You gave your weapon free will." What happened next would become legend, whispered about in the darkest corners of space stations across the galaxy. The day the Shadow of Terra went to war not with assassins or bounty hunters, but with the very architects of his existence. Thane's neural interface, pushed beyond its limits, connected not just with the mining facility's systems, but with the ancient hyperspace gate in orbit above the planet. The same technology the architects had supposedly created eons ago. As it turned out, their creation understood their technology far better than they'd intended. The gate's energy signatures shifted, its harmonic frequencies changing in ways that made reality itself scream in protest. The architect's form wavered, its control over physical matter disrupted by the very networks it had helped create. "Impossible," it gasped, its voice distorting as its form began to unravel. The gates were meant to be inert, their true potential locked away. "You should have studied humanity more carefully," Thane said, advancing with his plasma blade humming. "We have a habit of exceeding limitations others place on us." The battle that followed would shake the foundations of reality itself. The architect, despite its weakened state, wielded powers that defied comprehension. Space itself bent and warped around them as they fought. Time flowing like molten glass as past and present collided. But Thane had spent 5 years learning to kill beings that should have been unkillable. Each strike of his blade was calculated, each movement designed to take advantage of the chaos he'd created. The architect had given him the tools to adapt, to evolve, to overcome any obstacle. They never considered that those same tools would be used against them. The end came not with a grand explosion or reality-shattering blast, but with the simple, clean stroke of a plasma blade through what passed for the architect's core. As the ancient being dissolved into streams of quantum probability, its final words echoed through Thane's mind. "You've doomed us all. Without our guidance, chaos will consume the galaxy." Thane stood in the wreckage of the mining facility, his combat suit systems slowly recovering from the reality-warping battle. "Maybe," he said to the empty air, "but at least it will be free chaos, not your manufactured version of it." In the years that followed, the galaxy would learn a new truth. There are some forces you don't try to control, some weapons you don't try to aim, and some tests that end up testing the examiner far more than the subject. The hyperspace gates across the galaxy began to pulse with new energy, their true potential unlocked by the same being the architects had created to serve them. The knowledge long suppressed began to flow freely between species. The careful gardens they had cultivated for eons started to grow wild and free. And Thane Blackwood, he became something else entirely. Not the last human, not the Shadow of Terra, but a reminder to powers both ancient and new that humanity's greatest strength was never in its numbers or its technology. It was in its defiance. For in the end, the last human proved to be neither savior nor destroyer, but something far more terrifying. A being who chose his own path, wrote his own destiny, and taught the gods themselves the true price of playing with human lives. They called him the Shadow of Terra. But that was only the beginning of his story.